hear me all right?
Mm.
Internet's still playing up. I don't know what it is. I need to get it looked at.
Okay.
On the iPad. Does it sound all right?
Sounds fine, yeah. I just had a nightmare. Like, I was working. I was actually editing the podcast.
Yeah.
And my hard drive just disconnected. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Why has that happened? I pulled the cable out. So we've got like well, it might be the cable. Sometimes they're a bit dodgy. And I literally, as it pulled out, a little section of the hard drive just snapped off, like from inside the case and pulled out. So I was like, shit. But that's got all my work on.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to, I've just got Jade to go and buy a new one. So like,
yeah, that's annoying. Just transfer it all over as quick as you can.
Yeah, just hold the fucking thing in place. Well, what did we speak to Paul about? We spoke to him about Analogue Wonderland, obviously. How he started it, his type of photography he does. We talked a fair bit about the Wonderbox, and also we talked about the community fund.
Yeah, which we were amazing enough to win.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of, when I started editing it, I'd almost forgotten about that, like side of things, because it feels like ages ago now. So we spoke to him March.
Well, should we do it? Should we just do a little intro, like the usual?
Just use this. It's fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's all right. I mean, you can do it.
Sorry, continue.
We spoke to him in March. That's what I was going to say. First, I don't know. We spoke to him in March. So what does that mean? Nothing.
It means that we're going to look pretty stupid on camera because I'm pretty sure that was the first podcast we recorded.
It was the first person we spoke to.
So we might look, so we might look a little bit timid and shy, a little bit starstruck by Paul's beauty.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. But no, it's good. I mean, obviously, he helped us out no end. I mean, we don't have to keep going on about it. You'll hear it in the podcast itself. But we can't sing him and Analogue Wonderland praises enough, can we, really?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, it was quite interesting to look back on a conversation with somebody from months ago and see how awkward you are. And not you, how awkward I am.
What else do we want to talk about? What else have we got that's going on? Obviously, we're still working on the website.
Yeah.
Same again. There's a lot to do. There's a lot that we need to work out. But it's looking good. We can see more than we can ever see before. That's fair to say, isn't it? In terms of the kind of general layout and what we're working towards, the kind of light is at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. In terms of where we want to be at launch. We want to make sure it is the best. We don't want to rush putting something out just for it to be a bit crap. We want it to be the best from day one, and then obviously we'll continue to work on that.
Yeah.
Obviously we've got the YouTube channel, which I'm sure you probably listen to this on, or there's various other podcast platforms out there that you might be listening to us on. But in terms of the YouTube channel, we've started making some photo videos, which is pretty cool. Yeah, the first video we put out, I think it was last week now, that's done quite well. We've had quite a lot of positive feedback off that, and people suggesting things for future videos or telling us what they want to see. And we should have a new video coming out on Sunday. Are we going to put it out Sunday? We'll go for Sunday.
Well, yeah, you're doing it, aren't you? So
Am I putting this one out again? Okay.
Well, you're making it, aren't you?
Yeah. So we'll put the new. It's just a photo walk video. Again, it's like our first full length, but it's our first standalone photo walk video that hasn't been put at the end of like a podcast episode. Watch it. Tell us what you think. Oh no, it'll be the second one. What am I on about? It'll be the second one. We did the other one in Birmingham, didn't we? We'll drop links below to the videos so you can watch them. And then stay tuned for Sunday. I'll do on it. Let's just get into Paul. Let's get into talking to Paul.
Let's get into Paul.
Let's get into Paul.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, from what I do remember in the chat with Paul, I was definitely a little bit nervous about talking to him at the start, just because we both used Analogue Wonderland, right, for some time before we knew about the community fund and starting front. So yeah, it was exciting to talk to him. He's definitely an expert in his field. And he's very, 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 very knowledgeable. So it was nice to speak to him. And yeah, ever since then, and he still continues to this day. And the whole team, actually, the whole team at Analogue Wonderland, they've been nothing but supportive towards what we're trying to build. And yeah, we're happy to try and return the favour, even if it is just through this. Drum roll, please.
We'll do just like the kind of cool podcast intro where we just start talking and it's halfway through a sentence and it'll fade. Whatever.
There's usually 50 outtakes before we actually get going anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, should we start off, like, for anyone who doesn't know, you can tell them what Analogue Wonderland is and how you started it and all that kind of stuff?
Just in case there's anyone following us that isn't following you, but I'm sure there isn't.
No, it's lovely. Of course. So thanks so much for having me, guys. My name's Paul McKay. I'm one of the founders and owners of Analogue Wonderland, which is a UK-based e-commerce shop specialising in photographic film. I run it with my mum, who was in retirement, had just retired, before I said, why don't you do this thing with me? I'm starting. It'll maybe be an afternoon of work a week.
now it's 12 hours a day.
Exactly. She's since been full time. She's trying to retire again in the next couple of years. I'm desperately hang on to that. So so it started nearly 3 years ago. So May will be our 3rd birthday. It started as a bit of a side project, and we sort of said, this could be fun. But I mean, ultimately, I've been into film photography for years and years, and when I lived in central London, down in Borough, it was all good because I had a lomography store, half an hour walk one way. I had a different lomography store, 45 minutes walk the other way. Photographer's gallery was there. You could buy film, you could process film, all within a photo walk. And I thought life was good. And then I moved out to Yorkshire and I realised that was just the London bubble. I mean, I am from Yorkshire. I'm aware of the London bubble for many other reasons. This is a film photography specific London bubble. And I'm sure there were similar bubbles in Manchester and the like. But and just got really frustrated that it was really hard to buy film. Then moved to Switzerland and it was even tougher. But even then, looking back, when I was trying to buy film when I got back to the UK, the options for buying were, yes, if you happen to live right next door to a traditional camera store or somebody who hadn't given up on film, that was good, but that was probably fewer than 1% of the population. And then if you go online, there are a few places you could buy from, but Amazon still seems to be the number one, despite the fact that its range was dodgy. Lots of problems we know with Amazon anyway. And also there were a load of new brands popping up, like Double Film, Revelog, Street Candy, JCH were launching films. And there was no other thing to sort of bring it all together, apart from the Photographer's Gallery in London, which was and still is a fantastic physical store. And I want to try and replicate that idea of just making it really fun, really accessible, really easy online, and also then bringing in like inspiration, reviews, sample photos, everything that makes somebody totally new to film. And we know loads of people are coming into film as well as people rediscovering and that. Making it really easy for them to be able to choose from a huge range. Because while I wanted the biggest possible range and I want to support those small brands and products and things from around the world, it couldn't turn into some like overwhelming or inaccessible sort of gatekeepery technical info thing, because that would just be awful. So that's what we sort of tried to do, and it seems to have worked well. So 3 years on, we've grown steadily, which has been wonderful. I was able to quit my full-time corporate job, which is great. We've moved a couple of times. I'm talking to you now from, as I said to the guys before we started recording, the brand new offshoot office that's a temporary solution for the next 3 months while COVID spacing regulations are in place. We can't fit everyone into one building that we need, frankly. So myself and our new marketing person, still to be formally announced, but you'll recognise the name when it comes out next week. will be able to join me here and be able to do all our fancy videos and photos and all the other things that my mum says is faffing, but I turned it to real work. Here, which is good. So it's been wonderful so far. Obviously, the big change in the last year is the number of photo walks and chances to interact with people in real life has been at an all-time low.
Yeah.
But apart from that, we're blessed with the fact that we can all keep in touch with podcasts like this and Instagram and YouTube and that kind of stuff. So, because a lot of people might say it, or different businesses, but I came from the film community as a passionate shooter for a long, long time before I ever dreamed of thinking that it could be part of my business. And now I get to spend my life surrounded by boxes of film, which is a very, very happy place to be.
Yeah, well, we definitely will get on to, we have some questions about you and your personal photography journey. But yeah, going back to Analogue Wonderland, you wanted to kind of replicate that from when you was in London. I don't want to specifically say the kind of things that you have on the site and stuff, but was it just a case of building everything together at once, or did everything kind of step by step, did you add different brands, or did you know who you wanted to approach at the start?
I think there was no point I was trying to be what already existed. Like, we've got to be different, otherwise that's no good for the community and we're just taking business from elsewhere. So the goal was, and at the time there wasn't, there still is, places like AD Photographic, Nick and Tricks, who did a cracking job at selling to photographers who already knew what they wanted, necessarily understood emulsions. So we were never trying to graft to like that market. We were trying to help the folks coming new to film, who had maybe found their fathers or their grandparents' old film camera in the cupboard, picked something up at an auction or whatever. Not an auction. What am I trying to think of? Charity shop. That's
Charity shop.
Car boot sale, something like that. And then and thought this is cool. This is fun. This is a very different experience, taking photos on my DSLR or smartphone. So that's sort of where the concept came from. And then as soon as you think in that term, then it's well, we do need to have all those products. There's no point as launching as an Ilford and Kodak shop, because that already exists. Like, what value we bring to the community? And
I suppose what differentiates you. Sorry, what differentiates you from others?
Exactly, and the point being, it's not about like marketing speak for differentiation for a reason to get into marketing, something like that. It's the fundamentals of, can we do something that's new and different for the community that's valuable? If yes, great, that'll be a successful business. Almost leap of faith, but that's the plan. So you've got to find things that are different. And when we launched subscription, for example, the Wonderbox last year, we spent a lot of time agonizing over the details to make sure that it was different from what was available. And like Cool Film Club, who do have done film subscriptions for years, and making sure that it wasn't just replication or duplication of what the community frankly can already pick up. Because again, that's pointless. And the film community, the film industry, is a small enough one that if we all try and run around stealing for the business, then there'll be no one left. Whereas actually, there's a load of opportunity if we do something fun and cool, which is incidentally exactly what you guys are up to. There's lots of websites, there's lots of places to sell things, but not in the way that you guys are doing it. So the concept, hopefully, you recognise.
Well, that's where we see we're motivated by what you guys are doing, because it's different enough that we can do our own thing, but at the same time, what you do for the community is what we want to try and replicate and get involved with and help grow. But yeah, going back to what you're saying about the Wonderbox, obviously, we know what it is, and but explain what it is, what it is. Yeah, the concept behind it, sort of thing, just for our listeners.
Well, I remember it now as the first way I met Luke Farmer.
Yeah.
Romantically, our eyes met over a photo submission. No, the point of it is, it's a way for people to explore and learn about different films with a like-minded community. So what we do is every 2 months you get billed £50 and you get 6 films, 35mm films in the post a couple of days later with some extra goodies, discount codes maybe for labs, or free vouchers here, or a little sticker from Shoot Film Co. Lots of different things we do. Did a Sanotype once from Rach. And so you get your films, and that's great. But we didn't want to just sort of take people's money, dump film, and leave, which in fairness is a fairly normal transaction. But even still, with this kind of thing, because it was all about trying to learn together, what we do then is every week we release a video that's about specifically one of the films. So Last week was Rolly and Fred. The one before was Lomo Lady Grey. Mix of color, black and white, usual, unusual, high speed, low speed, blah, blah, blah. Talk people through what the film can do, talk through what the manufacturer says, but then also, frankly, talk through what the community reviews and sample images look like and say. So you're not just getting, what does Ilford think of Ilford Delta? You're getting, why did Ilford create this film, or what do they say is in it? Then is that experience backed up by the community, and how do you get the best out of it? So you get a real mix of the technical and the manufacturer's marketing spiel often, and then the community side as well. And then at the same time, there's competitions run every single month where we get guest judges in and people submit, and the criteria is only that you're a subscriber and that you've shot it on a Wonderbox film with a bit of a commentary about what you thought about that film. Because again, the point is you're adding back to the information pool of the community. People are shooting, let's say again, Ilford Delta or Rolly and Fred or Pro Image we had recently as well. They're shooting those films based on what we said in the video, maybe based on what they've been inspired by. Then they reflect on those films. They're entering their favorites into competition. Maybe they've really nailed it. We then share that and say, this is a fantastic example of a Delta photo or a Lomo Purple photo or whatever. So everyone is at the same time learning about the films and hopefully getting better at shooting those films, because I've always thought one of the joys of film photography is that you get all these creative tools, and shooting Lomo Purple 35mm in an Olympus OM1 SLR is a very different experience to shooting Delta 100 in 120 in a Hasselblad. Yeah. Experience and result. That's amazing. That's incredible. And I hadn't even touched the lens or the filters there, or the flash options. So with that vast scope, it's easy to be overwhelmed or to end up just falling into the comforting habits. And the point of the Wonderbox is really to gently nudge all of us into trying new stuff, but as a group, with a lot of chat, with a lot of communication in a way. And then my joke back at the start was because I've seen a few of Luke's have come up and been independently chosen by guest judges as special mentions and winners at various points. So
yeah,
you did all right out of that, didn't you?
I was well chuffed with that. Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's great. Like that Wonderbox, there's so many things that, especially in the first one I got, I think it had the double film in was the first one. And
yeah.
I'll say so I think that film's great now, but when I got it, I was like, yeah. I have seen these films on the website and I kind of never wanted to buy them, but now I've got one, I'll use it. And I thought it was great. I love it. And it's always sold out. And it's just a really cool film to use. It's similar with the purple. I had a roll of purple sat in my fridge the only reason I bought it was because I wanted the Metropolis and you could only get it in a pack of 2.
Yeah.
Never going to use that purple. I think it's stupid. And then I was like, I've got 2 of them now. I better use them. And, you're like, okay, it's cool. When you get like a really cool daytime shot and it doesn't look too purple or something, it's quite nice. But then I found it quite cool to use just going out my front door, because you kind of see the world a little bit differently from all the stuff that's, in lockdown at the moment. You're just seeing things, I could shoot that, because it will look a bit purple or whatever. And my initial reaction to that film was, I've got Photoshop, right? I can put a purple filter on.
Yeah, not the same.
The point. I don't see it, but now I've used it, love it. So
I think that's going back to what you said, Paul, about having a comfort blanket. And I know I was like that for a long time. I'd stick to what I knew, and then the more I got into analog photography, the more I'd want to experiment. Even, I'd even accept that my images weren't going to come out exactly how I wanted to come out, but it was still fun to use and try and understand that film stock with the camera that I was using, whatever it might be. But yeah, I always, I don't know if it's the same view, but I always find that, especially when I'm buying film from you guys off the website, the examples that you give of that film stock, there's a part of me that goes, please hope that my images come out exactly the same or somewhat as good, which I never do. But do you know what I mean? It helps, because I don't want to just see 10 photos of the product in its canister. I want to see the results. Do you know what I mean? And that gives me
Well,
something.
it's funny. One of my favourite things is when people, and I get this fairly regularly, people will email me asking if it's okay if they like review a film 2-star and put up photos that didn't turn out what they wanted. And I was like, no, please do. Like, write a bit of commentary about it, maybe, as to why you didn't like it, and explaining your reasoning. Because the point being, these films aren't for everyone. Like, there's still people who will, I forced them to shoot Loma Purple and they still bloody hate it. So that's fine. There's also people who don't understand black and white still, because they're like, I can Photoshop color into black and white. You know, it's not for everyone, and that's totally fine. But the more the point is, if you know what's possible with each film, if you've tried it, seriously tried it, to get the best results that you can out of it, whether or not you like those results versus shooting Portrait 400 on a sunny day every day, that's personal choice, and who cares? Like, that's brilliant, great. I'm glad
we're in England. It's not like that,
exactly.
Is it?
Well, exactly, yeah. You're lucky you found a sunny day. But it's like the fact that now Luke knows how to, or when Loma Purple could look cool. I think if we can all do that every time with every roll of film, then we all become better film photographers each time, even if we never used it again in our lives. It's now in our creative toolkit. It's now in our bank of things that we can do and shoot and achieve. And I think that's really lovely.
I think that what you're saying about people shooting black and white is I like shooting black and white film because I can develop it at home mainly. But also, again, through getting lots of different things from the Wonderbox, you kind of see the different things that are possible, and you know, the different looks that you can get. I am a bit of a skeptic about shooting black and white digital, because I'm like, I don't really see the point. And I think sometimes you can use black and white as a bit of a crux to be like, well, this photo wouldn't be very good if it was in color, but it looks kind of arty because it's black and white. And also, when you shoot digital, you shoot raw, so it's all in color anyway. So.
Yeah, I find myself, because I'm shooting black and white 120 at the moment.
Yeah.
If I had a digital camera with me, it doesn't matter. I can go on a photo walk and I'll take photos whatever I want, black and white, color, whatever. But now I know that I'm shooting black and white at the moment. That's like my next couple of stocks that I'm planning to use. Then I'm actively looking for what I think black and white will look good in, which I think is a good thing. But again, that's a
it goes back to pre-visualization and how you create an image rather than just take an image. And then the Loma Purple is the extreme extension of that, where you're like, what would look good in purple? Or Metropolis.
Everything.
What would look good, really muted, really contrasty. And my first roll of Metropolis was an absolute disaster, because I made the mistake of thinking, oh, this is a contrasty film, I'll shoot high contrast stuff with it, and it just made it really freaking blocky.
Well, now you just mentioned that, let's talk a little bit about you as a photographer then, Paul. What is it that, tell us about your photography journey to where you are now. Do you go out and shoot often, or are things too busy, or what do you like shooting?
The last year has probably been one of the lowest photographic for me, which is a bit sad, but I don't think I'm alone in that as well. I think the lack of new, I used to take a lot of photos, seeing family, seeing friends, going out and about, and then holidays, travel, and all of those things have been impossible. And I also think, like, from a headspace point of view, photography for me has always been a source of great enjoyment and also a release, but also it needs a certain level of headspace almost for me to feel able to do it, if that makes sense. I always think back at the toughest times I've had in my life, and I always notice that that's when I've taken fewest photos, and conversely. I think they are very heavily linked, and I think generally that's just put a bit of a down on this year. But I mean, I say that I still shot probably more rolls of film than most average people has in a year. That's a low year for me. I mean, I go back to so I was at uni 15 years ago now, and Polaroid, shot quite a lot of Polaroid at the time. I think I had a digital camera, but didn't use it for any more than random party pics, and didn't necessarily enjoy it or value it that much.
Did you find yourself drawn to film then, even from the earlier years then?
I enjoyed Polaroid and experiencing Polaroid, and the machine itself so much more interesting, fun, creative than, digital point and shoots 15 years ago were slow at the best of times, but weren't particularly enjoyable. And I didn't know much about photography then either. And then coming out of that, I got a DSLR, I think, soon after leaving uni, and learned quite a lot about photography on it. I enjoyed taking photos, but learning curve was very fast. But then I remember going on safari, it was my honeymoon, taking DSLR, but also I'd recently inherited my father-in-law's OM1 SLR and some 35mm film I bought for it. Now, when you're on safari, analog doesn't really make any sense. But even so,
I actually thought you meant safari as in Google then, and then I slowly realised that you meant an actual safari. So I've caught up now.
Safari,
yeah,
actual safari holiday, and actually came back having spent loads of time shooting the SLR, very little time shooting the DSLR, and actually all the photos that I enjoyed afterwards were all the film ones as well, and that was sort of the nail in the coffin for me. The DSLR never saw light of day, and someone bought me then a Dyna 120 soon after, so I got into plastic lens light leak beauties 120 obviously within it, and from there then the natural proliferation of gear as you pick up deals, people buy you presents, and also then your family members are like, oh, I found this random box of darkroom stuff in my attic, here you go. So then it really exploded from that, and then I've shot a lot of films since then. So for the last 10 years, 11 years has been exclusively film, but with everything from pinhole to medium format, large format, and back again.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that was kind of you're saying about like living in London, and you could go to, I mean, you could just buy film in Boots. I don't know if they sell it anymore, but you could buy some like XP2, and I can't remember what the Kodak film they sold was. And again, it was just using high street stores, but you could go to like Jessup's, get it developed, go and pick them up later. And it was great doing that. It was such a quick way of doing it and seeing your results really quickly. And I had the same thing. And then like bought a DSLR because I thought I need to learn how to, I wanted to see like more instant, like what am I doing? And then as soon as I've kind of learned it, I was like, it's kind of, it doesn't have the same feel. It doesn't have the kind of, I like the process of taking your time over taking a shot and all that kind of thing. And I know that there's a lot of people who don't feel the same way about it, but it's really enjoyable.
When you shoot on film, the people that will appreciate that, I don't know, maybe it's different because obviously anyone could see the work that you've produced, but for someone who shoots film, and as we all shoot film, I can look at anyone else's film photography and appreciate the process behind it and look past just the initial look of just the photo, which is always great. You want to see a good photo, but when you look at what the thought process or what you imagine the thought process of the photographer behind that's always appealing, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw a brilliant one on Instagram yesterday or the day before. Someone had taken a photo on Cinestill 800T, which obviously has the famous halation around red. But it was a solitary person going down an escalator. It looks like a subway station or something like that. And then the handrail must have had a red light, and the whole thing is lined with just this perfect red light all the way up. And it's so striking, and it's so obviously Cinestill.
Yeah.
But it's so dramatically that you enjoy it on two levels. You enjoy like that, the composition and the simplicity and the lights and the colors are brilliant. But also I know that was planned for the film stock brilliantly.
Now you're like the godfather of film then, because you know everything about everything. Do you find yourself challenged? No, but
I mean,
so if you saw a photo, would you your mind, half your mind was like, oh, this is a great image, but the other half like, what did he use on this, or what did she use on this?
Sometimes, but I also know that the choice of developer and then how you digitize it can impact it, especially black and white. Like there's some black and white where you immediately get a sense for it. Cinestill's easy because the halation is a dead giveaway. And you can generally guess color tones as well with some of the color stuff. But I mean, Portrait 400 is pretty distinctive. But some of the black and whites get pretty tough, especially because I remember this, it goes back to my chat I had with John Mider, the guy behind Massive Dev Chart, a year and a bit ago. So we were talking about this, and in fact, I have a blog about it where we were saying, you choose different film, you get a different look, that's brilliant. And he was like, whoa, you choose a different film, then you choose your own developer, then you get two different looks, and then you choose whether to push, pull, or to do it. And I'm like, all right, yeah, good point. Stand develop, rotation develop. dilution levels, different looks, man. And I'm like, okay, cool, good point. But again, that goes back to the fun of film. Yeah, exactly. Like, whereas with the digital camera, you get a raw file and then the choices are there. I think, and that's not a go at digital. I mean, as we keep saying, it's not one or the other. But I think the difference then is you make the choices out of screen. You have a raw file, that's data, you need a computer to process that, and you can replicate all of these looks, absolutely. But the time it takes and how much you enjoy sitting in front of the screen, for me, I don't enjoy that. I do enjoy the physical side of it and that kind of stuff. And actually, you know what, I said this as well, I look back at, I got a load of photos printed. Until you guys are up and running, I'm having to use Snapfish, but I'm waiting for you guys to start and I can do some proper art prints. Just to write really simple postcards, send some family and stuff while we're not there. And I've got a young daughter as well, and they'll want to see her. And I look back, and actually some of the film photos from last year are really lovely and summery and happy and joyful, and you couldn't believe that happened during the global situation we were in. And that's really nice as well. So clearly, despite my dour start to this conversation, actually there were moments of creativity and joy.
I think regardless of what happens with what's going on in the world, we will still look back and remember it. Do you know what I mean? So it's how you want to remember it, I guess. And there might be less of them for some people, but there's still going to be good times there. If you can document it as well, that's great.
Yeah, it has made me think. Like, one of the things I'd love to do is like a photo book that is like the joy of 2020. That just has none of the photos that are going to become stereotypical, none of the masks, none of the 2 meters, none of the signs in shops, all the stuff we have, and they are important and historical, and we'll look back on those with very strange thoughts in 20 years' time. But I also want to do a photo book that is purely, deliberately, could have been from any year.
That would be
that's cool.
2020 photo without a mask.
Exactly. With like, and 2020. Imagine like these photos, and they're there. They're there, like photos of my daughter, photos of my wife. Like, you'll notice there's lots missing. Group photos, not such a thing. Travel outside of 2 meters from my house, not such a thing. But there's a lot in there that it'd take you a few goes or a very good knowledge of the local area to notice that it's from lockdown. But anyway, that's one project.
That's part of photography, though, isn't it? It makes you realise that there's beauty everywhere. It slows down slows everything down. For me, it does anyway. I drive slower because I'm looking out my window more, potentially, not even necessarily at what I want to shoot, but just I'm slowing down to take in what's around me. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a spot I can go check out, and makes you want to explore. And you realise that there is a lot of happiness going around.
Popular things in film photography, underrated or overrated? Cinestill, what's your opinion?
I'm gonna go with underrated, simply because it's so cliche to call it overrated right now. Yeah, like all the Instagram meme accounts just batter Cinestill every second day. It's just like I don't know. It's just turned into almost a parody of itself to say that. Oh no. Whereas ultimately, day in, day out, what do people want to shoot?
Yeah,
it's Cinestill because the quality is fantastic. I mean, it's some of the best color chemistry that people have ever come up with on those rolls of film, especially on medium format. It's just divine. So yeah, I'm gonna go with underrated.
I mean, you've lost half your followers, but we agree with you, I think.
I'm now gonna get slated on those meme sites as well. That's cool.
Don't worry, our following's not as big as yours. It'll be all right.
The next big one in film photography is Leica. You going underrated or overrated?
I'm gonna go massively overrated, but only because I've never owned one or shot with one. So really, I have no leg to stand on there. But having stood up for Cinestill, I feel like I've run out of all my brownie points. I'm gonna totally abandon Leica to the wolves and say, nah, screw them.
Did you know Luke's nice and posh? His first camera was a Leica.
It was a very cheap Leica. It does feel nice when you click it. Not anymore because it's broken. But I was fully like, I love the way they look, and they look cool. So
I mean, jokes aside, everyone who actually owns one says that the engineering, the aesthetic is close to perfection in many ways. In which case, I'm sure that if I had one, I would use it every single day. But because I don't, out of pure bitterness, overrated, mate.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I went to the store, the Leica store on somewhere, I can't remember what street it's on, and I tried out an M10 and came out of there like, I really need one. And before that, I wasn't like, too fussed, but since I had a go, and I was like, right, yeah, love it. Got to save up for one of them.
I think I've avoided borrowing one for that very reason. Actually, no, there's one that I can definitely speak about that is overrated, is their instant camera, which is the Fujifilm computers and internals are absolutely Fujifilm, and then it's a Leica shell on top of that body.
Right.
Weren't we talking about this the other day? I can't remember.
Maybe a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good, don't get me wrong, but it's literally the same components, the same exposure meter. Everything's the same.
Yeah, I think they do that with some of their little point and shoots, like the Deluxe is basically a Panasonic, but but this is the thing. I bought a Deluxe 3 or something, and I knew I could get the exact same camera cheaper, but I still bought the Leica version, and I sent it back, didn't like it, but it's such a draw. But
you took a few selfies for Instagram first, and then sent it back.
Yeah. I probably did, but
selfie with it.
Yeah,
not even on it with it.
My new shooting machine, just this little thing.
Yeah, because then you get to tag it as like you get a little hashtag red.
Here's my Leica taken on my Nokia 3210. Enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
that was great fun.
So my last one, and what is popular in the world of film photography, underrated or overrated, is double exposures.
Underrated. I love double exposures, and I don't see enough of them in my life. But like, it's funny because when I can't remember when you were watching one of the ones I did where on the photo competitions, I always get drawn to the double exposures, and I was like, someone did like an amazing double, and I was like, this is my weak spot. Like when they're done well.
When they're done well.
Or when they're a happy accident that turns out well, not at all designed. I mean, all of my favourite double exposures I've done have generally been so I forgot to wind on the Diana. Generally after a beer or two, you just lose track and you're just like but double exposures, I really love them.
Yeah.
We actually posted a photo to our Instagram by a guy called Kid _Capture, if you want to check him out. And I remember seeing that and I was like, yeah, this is really good. He just double exposed a bus and then people walking, I think it was, a lot on the side of the street, but the bus had like a cross on it. And the way it was double exposed, you could see the person walk. It looked like an arrow, and it was really, really good. But yeah, I completely agree. They're done well.
Do you know that Double Film started off as a mobile phone app about double exposures?
Yeah, I think I had it, but I can't. It's not on there anymore, is it?
No, it Adam stopped updating it. Eventually, it got generally removed to the dustbin of time. But that was originally an app for double exposures.
Yeah, I rang a bell when he was talking about it on the live stream, so I'm pretty sure I had it, but it's very cool. But yeah, I've got a little like Ricoh 500 GX it's called, and it's got a switch on it. So to do a double exposure, you don't have to hold the bottom button in and wind it on. It's got a dedicated double exposure switch, so it cocks the lever. So you can just keep doing it. So you can just do like multiple ones really easily. So I have been out practicing with that. Actually, before we came on the call, I kind of went out for a quick walk and just finished off the rest of the film and just kind of practice doing it because I've tried them before, never get them right. And I would really like to just even trying to recreate the kind of classic double exposures that people do of, like a silhouette and a background and whatever.
Silhouette plus flowers, always a classic.
Yeah. I was doing some ones. So like, my wife got bored of me taking photos. Well, she's been bored of me taking photos for a pretty long time of her. And like I saw my dad the other day, and the sun was out, and I was like, right. So I was trying to like silhouettes of him, and then like some shots of a field. Whether it will have worked or not, who knows? But
my LCA has the same switch, and it does make it.
How does it?
Yeah, LCAs have them built in.
Yeah.
And then obviously the really cheap cameras, just you can just do it without winding it on, which makes life even easier.
Yeah.
Apart from the obvious of having Analogue Wonderland as your pride and well, your baby, what else motivates you to? Well, I guess the question is it Analogue Wonderland that motivates you, or are you still motivated outside of that as well?
Photography-wise, outside of that, and actually, I'd be very careful to try and separate to make sure Analogue Wonderland doesn't start to feel too much like work in terms of that. Then it can kill your passion. I mean, I know it's slightly different, but I know a lot of professional photographers who find that doing it day in, day out and having to do it for clients makes it very difficult to then get excited about weekend or travel. And I know it's not the same, so I'm not taking photos, but it's still talking about those kind of things. But the good thing is it's different enough for me. Like sitting there and you know, writing the website copy for the new, you know, street candy that came out yesterday is very different from shooting it, and just made me want to shoot. Like the sample photos that I got across to that look absolutely gorgeous. The toughest thing for me is time and travel and getting outside, which again is, I spend, you know, every week, and Luke will know this, I spend once a week preaching to the Wonderbox people. We shouldn't be, you know, we should get out and this is what it can do and this, that, but it's tough. I feel it personally. I know that. But I do have a huge stack of films, and also as well, like with running a small business through COVID, there has been a lot of regulation changes, Brexit as well. There's been a lot of boring stuff behind the scenes that's just not very fun. Necessary, I'm not complaining, but taking away just time, like working in the hours, you know, late evenings and weekends to do Brexit declaration forms is not a lovely thing to be doing with your life. That kind of stuff has generally eaten into the time. I'm hoping that with the next stage of the business, where we bring on, you know, a marketing person to help me out with some of the day-to-day stuff and things like that, it'll release my time and energy a little bit, and then combined with longer days and sunnier seasons, and who knows, one day the return of traveling outside your village.
Well, I suppose it's quite good, because I think you can personally tell that photography is clearly a big passion of yours, and you've managed to grow Analogue Wonderland what it is. Sorry, from where it was to where it is now, is purely through passion and the love for it. Which kind of brings me on to the community fund. So was that something you just wanted? Were you trying to think of something just to kind of give back to the community? And like going back to what you just said then, you don't want it to be a 9-to-5 kind of thing. Obviously, you've got what it's doing, but how did that come around? What was the idea behind that? Yeah,
it was something that our website provider added as an option back in the summer. I think it was as a COVID thing. It basically said, look, anyone who runs shops can add a tip at checkout. And I think it was predominantly designed for restaurants who are then moving to takeaway, or small businesses who had staff that relied on tips, presumably a lot more in North America. Some way of still adding that into the payment system. And I saw it and I thought, that's really interesting. And me and Mary chatted about it for quite a while, as, you know, we don't need it as a tip for Analogue the business. We should, as shops, we should, you know, make our money from delivering great service and great prices, etc. Our staff isn't normally a tip model. I don't know how it's separated out specifically, blah, blah, blah. But as an idea of people being able to discretionarily add something in a world where we knew a lot of our community were suffering from loss of income, from loss of jobs, from all of that kind of stuff, we just sort of thought, this let's offer it as an option. Let's see whether people even want to. Let's put in something that's like funding the future of film photography. We don't quite know what that is yet, but it's something around this area. Let's put it on there and see what happens. And we put it on there, and we said, you know, on Twitter and Instagram what we were, the sort of the vague thinking, and left it there really. And then it was November, I think, someone said, so what is this about? And I was like, good question, excellent point. Let me now go think about it again. And we looked at the pot, and the pot, yeah, it's tracked separately in our financials. The pot had grown to, at the time, it was like one and a half, maybe a bit more, £1,000. And then by the time we closed in December, it's £2,000. And we were like, oh my God, this is a significant amount of money that could really make a difference. And what we were then thinking was, how do we channel that in the right way to the right people, without it becoming a separate business, charity, organisation, like all those things that have huge ramifications for workload and legal and admin. But like, how do we make this relatively light touch for us? But fund it back in a way that helps the community, because that's the promise we said. That's what people gave their money to. But also it's what we want to do, and we have the ability to do that. And in especially in the last year, there's a continued inequality between people who have steady jobs who are fine due to the pandemic, frankly, who actually have seen a benefit to their wealth because they're not spending money on restaurants and holidays. Not that they've chosen to, but their wealth has increased, and everyone who's lost their income. And the other thing that we know about the film photography community is that it's hugely innovative, and a lot of the last few years of innovation, you can talk about the celebrities who have put on Instagram, they have contacts and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of the fundamentals of the industry, it's been generally small ideas, small teams, small projects that have grown and developed and added together to produce something much better. So the thinking then became, well, let's put some aside for charity, because in the world we've just gone through, especially, and they're all youth-focused charities. So future film photography, children of the future. Let's do that. That's the right thing to do, especially this year. But then that £1,500, let's put it towards projects. And we opened it out as criteria, just saying, look, guys, if anyone has an idea to benefit the UK film photography community, let us know what it is. Let us know how much it costs. Let us know what the plans are. Let us know a little bit about you, so we can do due diligence to make sure it's no one trying to scam, or even the nicest possible way, being over optimistic about what they can do. We'll take on the work to try and vet that a little bit. But ultimately, when the money's out there, it's theirs. It's not Analogue Wonderland. We've caretaken it for the community. We've been entrusted with it to help it go to the right projects. But after that, it's up to the people who receive it to do what they're saying. And those ideas that came back were amazing. Like, I had no idea whether one person, two person, 100 people would try and come in. We had 29, I think, 28, 29.
Wow.
Fantastic ideas. Of those, I'd have happily, if I could have, funded 80% of them probably straight away, like you could tell. So we took a lot of time then to whittle down, and so obviously we spoke to a few people person to person.
We were really excited to find out as well, because we were just happy to kind of pitch an idea, do you know what I mean? But when we found out we were one of the few that got selected, we were super, super happy. But we were so intrigued to find out what kind of things, what else was being worked on. Because like you said, like, the world's not in the best place, and without kind of going into the negative, looking at the best of a worst situation, there are a lot of people trying to build things and work on things with the time they have, regardless if they would have had that time before or not. But I think it's great that people are investing in themselves, or whatever they want to do, their passion. Going back to the community funds, we were super excited, weren't we? And just to see what other people were working on.
Yeah, you can see the other people, a lot of them, when you go through, so many of those applications had in them, after the loss of income, either personally or organisationally, we have had to look for other ways of doing things. We have had to try this ourselves. We have not been able to. So many of them, they don't look at all necessarily on the outside like therefore this and that. And it doesn't have to be that. I mean, hopefully this fund now runs for a long time, and 5 years' time, the economy will be great. Everyone will be happy, but there'll still be stuff to add on. But at the moment, you can really see the gap.
Yeah, that's great. So you're still running it. That was going to be my question. I see you've still got the tip thing on there, but
we'll see. We'll see if front photography turned out to be the front of an illegal operation, and that was actually an elaborate, faceless scam.
These aren't really our faces. These are masks.
Yeah. This isn't a podcast at all. If it turns out all the projects fail or whatever, hopefully not. No, I'm almost certain we'll be doing it again, because I think.
Who do you think is the hardest working photographer today?
Hardest working photographer, Rachel Brewster Wright from Little Vintage Photography.
Okay.
You're meant to pick out me and Luke, but okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, I know you guys. You started a podcast. You guys are busy.
I just went out for a 20-minute walk. Photos. That was pretty fun. Okay. Well, we'll put link to
we'll put link
in the description.
Yeah.
Favorite all-time photographer that can be living and or dead?
I'm rubbish at this. Because I have no academic or anything background to photography. So and also my memory is terrible. So I'll watch things or see things and forget. So actually the first one that comes to mind, because I've stopped on photography several times and independently messaged 2 days ago being like, seriously, this is amazing. Aileen McFadden, who's one of the people in the Wonder Box, who had a runner-up a couple of months ago with the double exposures. And honestly, every time I go on Instagram now, I'm hoping to see her photos. So as of today, Aileen.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. When I saw her pictures come up on that Wonderbox thing, I was like, how did she not win? I don't know.
Because you won.
I didn't.
No, exactly.
No, Joe, it wasn't this one.
I wasn't the judge. I wasn't the judge.
Yeah.
No, there we go.
Yeah, amazing, really amazing. And then 2 questions, not film related or anything photography related. Top 3 movies and top 3 albums.
Or you can just do top 1. We can do top 1 if you prefer.
No. I'll do albums first because I'm more into that than anything else. Top 3 albums. Anne Boleyn. And I'm going to go with their anthology, Blueprint for City Friendships, which is like the 3 top albums combined. I'm going to go with Green Day, Dookie. You can see how old I am because this is just dating me to the.
No, we were talking about Green Day the other day. We were saying this is how you know how old someone is, but according to their first Green Day album, we're having this conversation, weren't we?
Green Day, yeah, exactly. That's it. Green Day, Dookie. As my older brother would say, Nimrod. So exactly that. And then third one, it's got to be Fall Out Boy. One of the ones, but I don't know which one.
Fall Out.
They're the ones I fall back on.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the earlier ones, not the later ones. The later ones are not that much of a fan of.
And then is there a leaving message / words of advice that you'd like to give before you disappear?
I would always hesitate to give advice to anyone, but I think what I'd just say is thank you guys for having me on. I am super excited to see what you create. Honestly, I will be signing up both as a patron and as a client perhaps as soon as it goes live. But thanks so much for all of your energy that you're doing. Can't wait to see what happens.